Alright folks, this is Acidic Roots, and welcome to the long-awaited Part 6 to Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. Now, when I last messed with this game back in October of 2018, this was the area I was supposed to get to, but, basically, about 3.5 years later, this is where we're at. So, yeah, we started up with Ruben, but we kind of got some new stuff in motion. So I didn't watch all 5 of these episodes prior to doing part 6. I don't really have like the full Monty on everything that's happened across these episodes. I did have my other playthrough on my gaming channel that basically got to about the same area minus the dungeon that got the fire crystal, but so yeah, it's a little bit hodgepodge, but I feel like this game has eluded me all this time, and it's kind of starting to piss me off a bit. So I'm just going to kind of mess with it, and this guy is really using a lot of status effects. It's ridiculous how tough this one singular asshole winds up being. Yeah, he puts me to sleep 4 or 5 times, and then petrifies me, and that's it. It's kind of awkward. I'll tell you, if I wouldn't have saved, honestly, if it were like Final Fantasy where you go back to the title screen after that crap, it'd definitely be a pretty ridiculous maneuver. Because essentially I'd have to go back to where I saved, and if you haven't saved since the beginning of the game, that could be nightmarish. I mean, this game kind of does that sometimes, where it'll kind of have, like certain situations where, just like the very first fight in this game, you can actually lose and have to do it all over again. It's just the way it's programmed that you don't really have a choice in that regard. But, I mean, it's not really like it's that big of a deal. It's just kind of idiotic. The very first fight you get into in the game, you can get a game over in. You can get a game over in. It's just, not many games do that. They at least have a better learning curve, but that's, I don't know, I'm maybe bitching a little bit too much here, but that battle is a little bit ridiculous. Just overall stupid, but yeah, so that was it for Ruben for a while. Tristram is with us, but even he is not going to really, well, you'll see what's going to happen here. So where are we going? That's the whole concept. I mean, this game just kind of takes flight, and you're just supposed to automatically know what's about to happen. That's kind of the conditioning here, is just being able to pay attention to that and kind of say there's something afoot, and obviously there is a lot of context here. Now, eventually in this episode, I do wind up skipping like 4, maybe 5 battles, but for the most part, this is a pretty fucking bulky episode. As this kind of, I mean, they're all going to be bulky because this is the beef ravioli run, as I've stated, but now it's just kind of, back in 2018, I think I skipped more battles. I would just record like an hour or so long episode and then skip like 7 or 8 battles, so it got shorter. But I want all of these to be at least over 40 minutes, just because I am trying to get through this game. And when I did the 2021 playthrough of this game, I was doing them in 15-minute intervals, but this is kind of, it would take way too long. I'm itching to get this game done so I can move on to greener pastures and see what else is really cooking for the Super Nintendo, because I've got more plans for the Super Nintendo. It's just the concept of like whether or not I'm going to be able to figure out the games. So basically this month I'm going to purchase a brand new Super Nintendo game, and then that'll probably debut in like late May, and just depending upon if I can beat the game will be a big part of it. But I don't know, I mean, there's Donkey Kong Country 3 I could do. I'm kind of, Donkey Kong Country 2 that I did on my gaming channel last year was kind of haphazard, and it pissed me off more than I remember it pissing me off back as a preteen and stuff. So I don't know how wholeheartedly I want to jump into Donkey Kong 3, but we'll see how that goes. I do eventually want to think about doing that game. And then I'm also going to do Super Mario World. I want to get that game. Those zombies are bastards, man. They consistently continue to do the petrify move. We really need like some items that can prevent that. I mean, if you don't pay attention, you actually do go on to get items that prevent against status attacks, but it just seems like they always have them. But yeah, so I just would have to say and stuff that based upon like that relative kind of stuff there, I'm kind of up in the air as far as Super Nintendo games. I gotta get back to Tomb Raider. There's just more stuff. I've been this game has really kind of had me befuddled lately, and I'm simply running out of tricks as far as trying to, gravitate around that. I would like to get this game squared away. And I didn't realize it was so slippery. I mean, that's the main thing about it. I look at some of these folks, and it's just kind of, despite the fact that this is a beginner's RPG, it just really has like some context that just kind of piss people off sometimes. I don't know why this battle, I should have skipped this battle. This is like a 2-minute battle now we've been fighting these assholes. But it's kind of the thing. I was really baffled just by the fact, the honest reality of it is you're going to find that these enemies will not quite be as much of a pain in the rear here pretty soon, but this first initial while they're going to be. It's just ridiculous, but you'll see. So, kind of running out of stuff to talk about here, but yeah, the battle's finally done. So, yeah, but we are in the forest, just like at the beginning of the game. It's like Foresta. And that's the finale to Jones. It's a live forest. I saved over my old 2021 playthroughs. So that's effectively bit the dust. That's kind of the situation, but yeah. So we've got, yeah, I guess I probably should have skipped more of these, but you get the idea. It's just, you'll get a sense of the enemies in this area and such, but there are at least, like I said, 4 or 5 fights that you don't have to watch every single one. I don't know how many fights are actually in this episode. You're going to find there is a dungeon in this episode later on that is not going to get completed till the next episode, so, yep. Just trying to think of what's been going on and stuff. Been talking with Jackal Gold Kick, stuff like that. Hasn't really been a lot going on. Like Morbius came out, and I'm thinking about seeing that. And I'm also kind of curious about Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It's pretty interesting how that works. I felt like the first... I've said this on a handful of occasions, but the Sonic the Hedgehog movie that came out back in 2020, that to me is like a good rental. This really took me back to like 1996 in a lot of cases, just the 2020 version of 1996. And by that I mean just like classic Blockbuster video rentals, VHS rentals, buying Butterfinger BBs and Twix and that type stuff, Wild Cherry Pepsi. It had good vibes about it. Sonic was not quite childish, but it was a PG movie, so it's just the context behind it, just because I feel like there probably were 5 and 6-year-olds that liked Sonic the Hedgehog, so they couldn't, botch those folks. But hopefully, I really hope that Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is more of the same, because I do eventually want to see that movie, just to see if there could be 2 classics, maybe not classics, but just like good rentals, just good stuff. I almost bought Sonic the Hedgehog, but then I thought about it. I just like renting it from the library once every 8 months or something, or 8 or 15 months, every approximate year or so, renting that movie just for like the old time's sake. And I think I'm going to rent Sonic the Hedgehog from the library. I think I'm going to do that after I make this video. I'm going to rent that and just kind of watch it just like old times. Because the last time I watched it was back in like the summer of 2020, but I'm going to have to also put Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on hold before that gets like a couple hundred holds and stuff. But yeah, so we just saw a tree, and basically we have to go get some assistance. So that should tell you some of the concept that's coming along here. So, but yeah, there are dozens. I'll tell you this completely. There are dozens of battles that can be fought just to get like special items, and by special items I mean not special items. They're like cures and heal potions and explosives, but I probably at this point in the game I could use more explosives, but it's just kind of a situation about it. So yeah, we're getting there. I'd say we're probably about 65, somewhere around that percentage done with the game. I just would have to kind of say and stuff like This is good. So yeah, we got explosives there, but there's a little bit of dilly-dallying here, because I obviously in this episode where I did this stuff right here, I hadn't played this playthrough since 2018, and it's 2022 now, so I just kind of had to get that in motion. But yeah, there's just an overabundance of stuff. Like, we're slowly but surely getting further and further in this damn game. Oh yeah, we need to talk to Phoebe and a bunch of other folks. So, I am going to get that chest here in a second. So, yeah, Kaylee is going to be in the mix also. So, we've got some female characters on the way who will join up with us. Go ahead. I mean, and what about Tristram at the same time? We have to question that. So, something's afoot here. But, yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Yeah, this town used to be ice, for folks. I mean, if you're just jumping in this episode, this used to be an ice town, so it's kind of, Trying to think of, like, necessary things to yap about here. Like, the Grammys are going on tonight. I think that's kind of the situation. I could have watched those, but, It's the same thing with the Oscars. Like, that's something to talk about that's going on currently, is the Will Smith, Chris Rock slap that happened. That's been tearing up things, and folks, I mean, really, Chris Rock, I think, bolstered, like, his popularity, because really, I mean, Chris Rock hasn't been in a hit movie since, like, the 2000s. I mean, he did them, like, 20 years ago. But, I mean, he may make, like, minor cameos or supporting cast, but he really hasn't done a movie like Down to Earth, or like that movie he did with Bernie Mac where he ran for president. Just movies like that, and even he had a decent role in The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler, but he just doesn't do that stuff. I mean, really, Chris Rock has been pretty quiet, but this is about the most trending he's been in years. And Will Smith is kind of the same situation where he's losing movie roles now because of that, and it's kind of, but I don't know, I just felt like people have said Will Smith is, it's kind of up in the air with him, but I just kind of feel like, I don't know, I mean, he has the ability to do movies, but I don't know why he doesn't do movies like Bad Boys and iRobot and Wild Wild West and some of those movies. I mean, that was kind of an awkward movie, kind of cheesy, childish Wild Wild West, but it was decent. It was decent. It was just one of those awkwardly bad but still somewhat good kind of movies. But just that kind of concept, Will Smith just needs to get back to movies like iRobot and even Hitch. Even movies like that are pretty good. Will Smith did a really terrific job up to a certain point in the 2000s, but yeah, just one of those things. But there was a Bad Boys 3 that came out just like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, something like that. I need to see that movie, honestly, but eventually I'm going to rent Sonic the Hedgehog instead. Seems like a plan. So, Phoebe was with us briefly, Tristram left, as you've seen, and now we're party member list. So, there's still life left in this game. But the more I play into this game, the more I realize that it just was very scant in terms of, like, interaction. I mean, for the most part, you talk to the characters one time, and you basically never need to talk to them again. Like, other role-playing games for the Super Nintendo, like Chrono Trigger. I mean, Chrono Trigger had so much more life than this game, and so did Mario RPG. And even Final Fantasy VI, all of those games had sufficient kind of... I mean, I just feel like this game... I mean, I know it's like I've said before, a decaf RPG, but this is kind of... I don't know. I mean, I'm glad that it came out, and I'm glad that they managed to get this out as quickly as they did, but I wish that some of the characters had at least like a second or third line of dialogue. Like, after you got, like, the second or third crystal, you could go back to some of the beginning towns and kind of see what they have to say. I mean, I'm spoiled on, like, PS1 RPGs where they did that stuff. I would have to simply say that that's the situation that needs to manifest, like, way more. But, I mean, it was 1992. I mean, this is a 30-year-old game now. It's kind of the thing about it, but, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I've said repeatedly in, like, the 2021 playthrough that it is a classic game, but it's ancient. And that's really the thing you have to pay attention to. I'm just looking for extra stuff, trying to talk to some of these folks. It's just really not much to do. Just kind of making sure that there's not more stuff I have to do and stuff. But these towns are really scant. I mean, there's just like a couple of people walking around, and that's essentially it. But Steel Helm. Yep. So yeah, I want to say that there's not even an item shop in this town. It's just relatively, I don't know. So, yeah, we need, yeah, there we go. I thought we were trapped. I'm glad that there's the jump ability. I think most people, if you've watched a playthrough of this, have probably said that the ability to jump over the party members, because that happens in the two-dimensional Final Fantasies, is a character will trap you, and if you don't have the jump, you're stuck there until they finally decide to move, whenever that happens to be. So, but, you know, you get the idea. So, yep, we're going to be seeing more of Focus Tower soon. Definitely kind of the thing there. Get some more easy explosives. I mean, that saves us having to pay like 200 GP for it. Yeah, I'm just kind of getting lost around here. Don't wholesomely remember as far as what to do. Of course, we go to the third door, and that the green little crystal should let you know that that's the wind crystal, which we're going to be seeing more about that soon enough. I don't know why I'm getting so confused here. I think I wanted to go back and scale back to the town, but then I realized you don't actually have to go through Focus Tower. When you complete the volcano, which I forgot about, you get an easy access, and I want to get like some more seeds. Fireburg is probably the best town in this game. I mean, there's at least one later town I've seen, but this one just has the most pizzazz. I think I said, like, in my 2021 playthrough of this, that it basically feels like the Las Vegas of the game. This is probably the most litty town in the game, to say, you know, as if the word litty could exist back in 1992, but it's just the truth about it. Just the fact that it has the band there should tell you this is about as casual as it gets. Now, Final Fantasy VII did dozens of things. It had plenty. The characters were getting drunk. They were hitting on characters like Aeris and Tifa. You know, they did stuff, and, you know, they, you know, just did more kind of more appropriate things for, like, older settings, but they had girlfriends and that type stuff. So this is kind of amongst that mannerism, but I don't know. I don't know if it's so much Nintendo that's to blame for this, because, I mean, really, I find Benjamin, which is the lead character's name, if you don't know. Because I don't think I ever referred to him as Benjamin in, like, my first 5 episodes I did in 2018, but the main character's name is Benjamin, and he's basically a prep. He basically kind of has, like, a more spiffy and bubbly attitude, kind of like Tidus or Tidus from Final Fantasy X, and then Super Mario, his general bubbliness and kind of more jubilant candor about him. That's kind of the thing. I mean, really, for the most part, most Final Fantasy heroes these days don't have kind of like the wide-eyed approach that Benjamin kind of has. He was really like one of the last ones that did. Because Final Fantasy VI, which was the next one after this, was basically Locke, I think, was the main character, and he was just a full-blown thief, even though he preferred to be called the treasure hunter. And then you had the moody Cloud, and the kind of asshole, but still kind of, you know, he was just more of a dick, but, you know, people liked that he was a dick, was Squall from Final Fantasy VIII. And then you had Zidane, who was kind of a Casanova. He disliked every girl that walked in that game. And then you had Tidus, who was pretty bouncy and kind of similar to this guy, just not quite as young, I would suppose. I mean, I figure Benjamin to be like 15, 16, probably somewhere in high school, Maybe he is in his early 20s, but it doesn't really specify it. They didn't really do like the age and the stats for these characters back in those days, but I know that he's at least pretty starry-eyed. But this is kind of the thing. This is about some of those Final Fantasies and stuff. And yeah, on a side note here, you definitely want to tend to Kaylee pretty good, just because she's very effective against the enemies in these next few areas. I mean, her axe takes out the tree enemies and the worm enemies that you're going to find, and a bunch of other ones. She's just an overall useful fellow, and you definitely want to keep her in good health. And I mean, really, I recommend using the axe in a lot of areas, but I mean, you're always gonna. One thing I noticed about this stage in the game is you're always gonna fight 3 enemies for the most part. I mean, it's never gonna just be one like it was at the beginning of the game. So most of these battles kind of drag on for a lot longer, and there's a lot in the dungeon that we're getting ready to go to. There's at least over 20 random battles that you're going to have to fight. Probably more than that. I mean, even if you want to avoid them, you're still going to have to fight quite a bit. There's a lot to do. And the problem that was bugging me that I noticed at this stage in the game is there's just nothing to talk to. You would have thought that there would at least be a couple characters to talk to, but I guess role-playing games just didn't do that stuff back in, like, 1992. I mean, that's what I was hoping for, is just like some characters that were like, hey, blah, 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 keep going, something like that. Someone for Kaylee to talk to, someone to kind of show Benjamin to be even more of a hero. But okay, we're in the next dungeon, the tree dungeon. It's kind of the concept here, but this takes, it's funny that there's actually a dungeon in the tree, because Zelda Ocarina of Time did this very thing. Same concept where you have a huge dungeon inside a tree. It's funny that this game was possibly where Ocarina of Time got the influence from. But yeah, I forgot what I was talking. Yeah, just the concept of having care. There's no interactions. The only thing you're doing in these dungeons is just fighting. It's too bad. I mean, like I said, this is an old game, but I still feel like the extra effort could have gone a long ways. I don't know. That's kind of the thing. But I really do wish that I said this in my 2021 playthrough, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can refer to that. There's basically 2 playthroughs of this damn game that I've done at this stage, but I basically said in the 2021 playthrough that I kind of wanted there to be like another spin-off of Final Fantasy like with this game. There basically needs to, especially if they could make it with like the old school graphics of this game, just like what they're doing with the new Ninja Turtles game, Shredder's Revenge. I like a new Mystic Quest, something like that. I mean, Square Enix, they should look into it. They definitely should develop further entries in this game series, and I don't know. It's just, it's too bad about that, but yeah, we're just going to concentrate on the fighting. We've got basically another 30 minutes worth of fighting to initiate here, and I'm kind of getting restless, but that's the only thing about, I don't know how I did this back in 2018. I just had that much more kind of energy to do that stuff, and now I'm just I miss like my 15-minute intervals here, so yeah, we've just got minutes stacked on minutes. Got to make sure I don't run out of subject matter, because then these are really going to be a drab to listen to. Yep. I've got Acidic Roots videos to do. I've got to help out with Frenchie Talent, and I've got other stuff that needs to happen. I'm probably going to have to hit Cobalt up about some ideas. That's kind of been the concept, is, Cobalt's always been just one call away. But the whole concept about it is I don't have the ideas as much as I did back in year 6. That's kind of the thing there. It's interesting just to kind of say some of the concepts is what to do. I mean, Jackal Gold Kit continues to help me out, but it's just kind of like, I could use the extra kind of affirmation at this point to get some of these in motion. But yeah, look at this axe. One-shots them. These tree enemies are just basically like a freebie battle, just because for the most part it should not take that much difficulty even if you're under-leveled, but something to know. So yeah, here's a two enemy battle. So I guess when I said they're mostly 3s, there is the occasional 2, but I just feel like this is a real exhausting dungeon. It just is. I mean, it really, These are the kind of role-playing games where you had to grind. You really had to just bite the bullet and just accept the fact that you're going to have to do some real full-blown grinding. Games were different in the 90s, you know. Nowadays, role-playing games would break up the monotony with a bunch of, like, you know, you'd have characters to talk to, events, cinematic sequences. Even Final Fantasy VII did this stuff, so. But we don't talk to anybody. So, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm probably going to enjoy this game a lot more once I beat this game, and then I can just float through it and just see all the stuff there is to see, but it's just kind of off and on. So there was a battle I skipped. So, this wasn't... I skipped probably about 3.5, 4 minutes worth of random battles, and they're all around this relative area. So, I'm going to do more of that next time. And, I mean, they're always going to be more than 40 minutes or so, but it's just kind of... Yeah, so the Grammys are going on as I speak. I wonder, like, what's happening. I wonder if, like, Selena Gomez is getting miffed that she didn't get Album of the Year, and I wonder how many awards Olivia Rodrigo is winning, and I wonder who else is doing well, and that type stuff, you know. All those little starlets and stars. I don't know, I would kind of like for Charlie Puth to put out another project. He got his first good hit in a long time, but he hasn't done anything, and, you know, I'm trying to think of, like, rappers that were doing decent at the time. Like, there really wasn't a DaBaby project last year, and, yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of strange, like, Grammy rappers, because, you know, like, 10, 12 years ago, it was more like the Kanye Wests and the John Legends and those type people, but, you know, so many times Drake will pull out of the Grammys, and The Weeknd has, you know, gotten in arguments with the Grammys where he doesn't want to be there either, so it's just really awkward in terms of, like, the folks who are, like, the new crown princes of that award ceremony and stuff. I really should be watching it, but I just wasn't in the mood, you know? It's kind of But these toads are assholes. I mean, they're even called mad toads. They will consistently do status effects, and they can turn you to stone. If both your party members get turned to stone, it's game over, and they can do it on a dime. That's just something, if one of your party members gets turned to stone, you better instantly use a heal or a heal potion, because you're that much closer to a game over. So, that's kind of the thing there. So, I don't know. I haven't really used the automatic computer player to have the CPU help me. I mean, I really feel like, unless you really like grinding in this game, I don't recommend it, because they will use up all your items pretty fast. There's just really no point at this stage in the game to use auto, but this, for crazy folks who really are having fun with this game, it could be something to try. But, yeah, it's just strange. So, 3 toads, just what we needed. And Kaylee's poisoned right off the bat, so that's one thing. You do have to go out of your way to heal them. Poison stays with them, so you definitely want to stock up on heal potions. Too late. Sometimes it'll just happen. But, yep. So we basically have like another 20 minutes left of gameplay. This is really a supersized kind of playthrough and stuff. Like I said, you know, I'm just trying to get this done just to have it afoot and be able to get it in motion, but that's kind of the main thing there. Yeah, and that's another spell that you want to keep using and holding on to is Arrow. It definitely is effective. I don't remember where I got Arrow, but it's a good thing to kind of get in motion. So, I'm gonna run out of stuff to talk about, like, Yeah, I wasn't anticipating having to do this. I had a lot more energy with stuff to yap about 4 years ago and stuff. This is kind of if this consistently continues to give me problems like this, I probably will go back to just separating them into 15-minute segments. I don't know. I mean, this has just been the most hodgepodge kind of voracious playthrough I've done in a long time, just because it's just really, you know, I'm not one to vouch for like attention span, like ADD type stuff, but RPGs just really take a lot of energy. Like, I was able to beat Mario RPG for the Super Nintendo and like a couple others. This would seem like a simple one to do, but it just really taxes my patience. It really happens to kind of be the thing and stuff. RPGs, I don't know. I can beat like a game like Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, games like Blackthorn, games like Donkey Kong Country 3, Donkey Kong Country 2, but somehow these games, even the most basic beginner RPGs, are just a real kind of taxation on that type stuff. And it's a shame because this game is a colossal amount of fun. I mean, this is a game that I would give over an 8.5 out of 10 to, but, you know, it's just the fact that it really stretches your patience. It's just something, these are the type of games that are just, you have to be in a patient kind of mentality to win in this. So it's just kind of, this is, you know, it's taxing, but yep, we're just gonna have to power through. But yeah, a definite spell that we're gonna get here is the white spell. It definitely helps amongst like this stage in the game. It's a skill set that will take out some of these. I mean, in some cases it doesn't, but it really helps against the boss characters. It's something you definitely want to have. Like, I watched a playthrough of this, and I sat there and said, you know, I'm going to try to get some of these spells. If I can see them, even if some of these battles wind up being annoying, if it's worth the move set that makes it easier in the future, let's go ahead and go for it. That's kind of the thing. So there is a little bit of dilly-dallying, but it's just kind of the concept. Just strap yourselves in. Just go order yourself a Little Caesars or a Domino's pizza. Put a frozen pizza in the oven. Get some fried chicken. You know, maybe tell one of your friends to go pick up some fried chicken. If you got a roommate, go, you know. Kind of having a runny nose right now. Keep wiping my nose. Yeah, I just would say to go and have one of your friends pick up some fried chicken, and he'll probably be back home by the time this episode is over. This is kind of the thing. You have my official permission to do it. So, kind of the thing. Yep. So yeah, another enemy that the axe is really effective against is these scorpions. It's like Kaylee is a real benefit in this dungeon, so just pay attention to that. And you definitely want to use the axe a lot of the time with Benjamin also. So definitely is a wicked skill set. The meteor, that's what we got. I want to say, I didn't use that move that much in this dungeon. I probably should have, but it probably would have worked against the boss. I just didn't think to. Yeah, I feel just like Capri-Sun in some stages where he was getting pissed off, you know, where he'd be like, don't be a dick, Nose. Nose, quit pissing me off. I mean, I understand that kind of concept. I don't know. This is relatively annoying. But keep in mind, this is a fairly decent-sized dungeon. I actually do wind up getting lost in here after I beat the boss, which it relatively pissed me off. It was like, how the fuck do I get out of here? You know, it's kind of the thing. It's just ridiculous as far as trying to get out. And it is kind of puzzle oriented also. I mean, there's some stuff here you may not realize what you have to do, but we'll get to that when we get to it. And it's kind of like hell. I don't know. I'm almost thinking of just like cutting off the commentary and doing like the last 12 or so minutes later. I think that's probably what I'm gonna do because I'm just not in the mood to be forced to commentate for another 16 minutes, especially if I mess up. I really do not fucking feel like doing, like, basically, you know, all this over. So I'm just gonna have to kind of say and stuff that's like the main parameter about it. So I'm just gonna kind of, you know, I don't know. I may just cut off sooner. I mean, it's not like you're going to be able to notice, but it's just kind of the concept of saying I'm probably going to be doing that a lot in like these 50 or 55 minute intervals. In some cases, if I really feel inclined, I might make some of these longer than an hour. They'll probably never be longer than like 80 minutes, so that's at least something to pay attention to. Yep. So I'm just kind of running out of... But yeah, so Tristram, or... Yeah, it was either I think it was Tristram that gave us this item. So he knew somehow this was going to come in handy. And he's just off treasure hunting. You know, it's like... That's more important than saving the world, I guess. But, you know, that's, I guess, really, since... That's the funny thing about being the chosen one sometimes is, you know, other people, they just do not care that the world is in danger. Every now and then, that's how you know you find, like, the good best friends and the good romantic interest and stuff are the people who realize, blah, 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 the world is ending. Some people, like, in characters in a video game, they don't care that, you know, the strong sword can save the world and cut down the tree or whatever that is needed to save the world. You're paying 150 gil for it or whatever the rupees for it, despite the fact that it can save the world. And that's this kind of thing. It's just like with this COVID stuff, you know, you would think that prices would go down, but they did the opposite. It's like, hey, the world might be ending, but you're still going to have to pay, you know, like $6 for toilet paper or something like that. You know, it's just kind of... I mean, yeah, back when COVID first started, toilet paper was a commodity. It was idiotic. It was just full-blown idiotic, but... Yeah, it was just something to pay attention to, but... I mean, I'm not, you know, I don't like the context of saying Tristram is a full-blown asshole, but it's just something to kind of pay attention to. He literally just kicked Benjamin here to the curb just to mess around and go treasure hunting. So... But yeah, it's something to pay attention. I mean, that happens in RPGs. I mean, it doesn't happen as much. For the most part, the party members, this is kind of a different game just because you can only have 2 party members. So you basically have your whole team with you at all times. But this game is like, they just leave. They're just like, hey, you know, I'm going to go get lunch. I'm going to go buy a hot dog. I'm going to go, you know, go to the beach. I don't care. I'm just done. It's almost kind of comedic the way that sort of stuff happens. So, but yeah, this area did stump me, and I bet you're wondering also what to do, but it's simple. I mean, it's not, the game is not going to blatantly tell you as far as what to do, but you basically have to poke the tree things with the face with the sword, and then it'll open. I mean, this game is a little bit like Legend of Zelda somewhat, that you have to kind of have at least a good thematic puzzle radar about you. So alright, so I think I'm gonna yep. So this we've got more going on here, so just keep you'll see. Yeah, so basically we're gonna keep belting through this game, and the thing about it is like I've said before, this is about as far as I've gotten in this game. I have at least seen the project to completion, but it's probably been since I was like 24, somewhere back in 2014, since I've really watched this game. I used to watch it quite a bit. I mean, I did enjoy, this was kind of one of the secondary games I used to mess with on quite an often basis, but I don't know, just kind of burnt out after about 2014 or so, and I don't really know why. This is still, I mean, like, I definitely feel this should be one of the games that you get if you get the machine that has this, the Super Nintendo, but it's just kind of, I don't know, this is always going to be underrated. This is something to pay attention to. I mean, it has enough projects, enough walkthroughs of this game at this point, but just like 6-7 years ago, it really didn't. That's the thing about it. It took until like, you know, I want to say that like H.C. Bailey probably did this game like way back in probably like 2009, 2010 or something. And Nintendo Capri Sun waited a little while, but he eventually did it in 2012. And I've seen other, relatively noteworthy folks, Newfie Bonga, those type people, they've done playthroughs of this game, but I still feel like not everything about this game has been. I mean, you need someone like me who kind of has like a more kind of just warped kind of perspective and kind of almost in a trippy sense to where, I mean, because we just assume at this point that every single gamer that likes Final Fantasy doesn't like beer or something. You can get like a nice clean playthrough and a nice even playthrough where there's nothing even mentioning like, Jack Daniels or Captain Morgan or, like jalapeno pizza and nachos with jalapenos and Miller Lite beer and that type stuff. I'm going to go ahead and say, I understand that this game is a complete bona fide festival, especially at this point in the game. This is interesting stuff. A giant dungeon inside a tree. Perfect time to just get like 2 or 3 of your buddies. And I mean, even though it's not exactly like a showboating thing for like the female sort, I think just in the proper setting when the night's kind of burnt out, this is the perfect game to kind of stretch into. That's always what I've seen it as, but I kind of wound up getting lost here, but just kind of saying stuff. So yeah, obviously if you've got big pizza pie on your living room table and there's like several beers all around that, it's like, yep, you're in for a treat because there's plenty more. I'd say we're probably about 60, 65, maybe 70% done with this game. This next area after this area is where we attempt to get the wind crystal, so to kind of get that in motion, and that's what you do to get further. You have to poke that. Get into the habit of remembering that this is an action RPG. It'll help. Basically, so many folks could have gone on for hours just being like, what the fuck do I do? And it's like, well, poke the dungeon with the face. The dungeon wall with the face. This is very Zelda-esque. So, yep. Just keep using those axes and they get wiped out pretty quickly. So, yep. And we're going to need the heal potions, definitely. I'm not saying go out of your way for these treasure chests, but, definitely, if you think you can spot an easy one, then go for it. But Kaylee is ever useful. She's pretty much, basically the perfect partner to have at this stage. It's kind of strange for her to wield an axe the way that she is. I wouldn't expect, most of the time female characters are not axe wielders, but for what it is, I'm not complaining, So, she's probably like some Amazonian chick. Just the way she's dressed up in green, it's kind of like, I don't know what we're dealing with here. She's like a good version of Poison Ivy from Batman, But I keep knocking out these enemies. Now, I thought I skipped some of these battles. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I think I actually saved the gameplay from before, so I don't remember where I skipped them. But, yeah, we still got a number of things left to do. So. But yeah, there are further action sequences. So if you think that, you're done with the action stuff, just strap yourself in. I just wonder what the last few dungeons are going to be like. Because we're getting kind of close to the home stretch. I'd definitely say we're in about the third quarter of the game now. So, I'm just digging it. This is where things start to get interesting. It's just fun. It's the main thing about it. It's just the overall fun factor that goes along with it. This is a perfect example, like I said. You could have people playing beer pong in the same room as you. It could be like, hey, people shouting at the top of their lungs, or maybe not at the top of their lungs. You probably wouldn't be able to hear me that much if people are shouting, pretty loud. But just to kind of say, if there's like a simple game of beer pong going on in the other room, it's like, you lose or you win at that game of beer pong. You come in here and you're just like, dude, I am about to get my grub on. I need some of that pizza. I am like swashed right now. It's like, yep. I mean, this game just is good. I mean, that's the whole thing about it. It's just like, where are you? Where is this? You're fighting a dungeon inside of a tree, chopping down mushrooms with an axe? Yeah, that's very inventive. I just wonder if, like, other kind of Final Fantasy games did this sort of stuff. I mean, I think they did, but, you know, what I mean is past, like, the PS1. You know, if, like, I wonder the interesting areas from Final Fantasy 10, 11, and 12 for, like, the PS2, and then even the ones for, like, the PS3 and beyond, like Final Fantasy 13, 14, and whatever one they're on now. This game has quality Final Fantasy in spades. It definitely does. Despite the fact that it's a decaf RPG and it's kind of, you know, a basic one, it still, you know, has its weight. So. Yeah, now something when you know, when these enemies do like these things where it lowers your magic and your physical attack and stuff, I don't know if that's just for like the one battle or if you're just permanently weaker. Because that would be really annoying if, like, Kaylee were to go down, like, 5 or 6 attack points and then fight the boss and it take longer because of, you know, all these random battles that you have to get into. And it's kind of like, damn, that would really suck. I mean, it would make more sense just to lose the physical points just for the one battle, but I really don't know. I mean, I didn't think to check when I was doing this gameplay earlier, but... I mean, it doesn't matter so much with Zone's character, Benjamin, just because he levels up and he'll get stronger, but with the computer party member, it's kind of, it's a guessing game, you know. So, but this is really not that tough a dungeon. It's just confusing. That's the thing. Is this? I think they're trying for you to more get lost and frustrated more so than to actually get game over. I mean, those toads were kind of a pain in the ass. Admittedly, the toads were annoying because they could turn both characters to stone. But apart from that, this dungeon is pretty simple. It's just elongated. So... And these slime things, I'm going to go ahead and spoil what they're weak against. Just use bombs on them. That's their weakness, is bombs. It's not fire. At least I don't think it's fire. But at least bombs and that sort of stuff. Explosives work real well against them. So... I want to say that every enemy in this game has a weakness one way or the other. It's just about realizing it and figuring out. I mean, some of the ones like worms to axes kind of make sense automatically, but some of the other ones may not be quite as stationed to where it would be noticeable. But so I noticed that there weren't chocobos in this game. You know, it's I mean, that's kind of blasphemy for a Final Fantasy game to not have chocobos in it. It's really strange because you'd think it's in the same Final Fantasy world, but it doesn't really have any carryover characters from like typical Final Fantasies and stuff. Like there's no black mages or white mages or anything like that. I mean, it's really just kind of quick and to the point. I mean, I would have liked at least a character like Vivi from Final Fantasy IX, you know, something like that. But I like those mages. Those black mages are dope. They're just so awkward, and, you know, in some Final Fantasy games, they kind of have, like, tempers. Like, they turn a character to, like, I want to say in, like, Final Fantasy IV, they turn them into, like, a frog or something. I don't remember what they do, but it's just funny. Funny little characters there. But yeah, the scorpions are weak against Axe, but it's mainly going to be Kaylee's character that one-shots them. So, I mean, unless you're of a higher level. I mean, you can see that Zone here is at level 24, so maybe if he was at like 26 or 27, something like that, he could do it. But, yeah, I don't know. I've not been really visiting these battlefields that much, and I'm somewhat unapologetic about it just because it's really trying, and, you know, it's just... This game is really not that difficult. It's just the concept you don't really have to do it, but it just makes the process easier if you do. It's just your choice as to how far you want to experiment with this game. But So, alright, we're about done with this episode, and, I do have some of the gameplay recorded for Part 7, so that should be coming up fairly soon. We'll just have to continue to get that in motion. But, yeah, there's going to be another dungeon, and you'll see what happens of this tree lair fairly soon. So yeah, this is a frog giving us this much trouble. But yeah. Alright, folks. So that should about take care of it. We're going to try to figure this dungeon out. But alright, so subscribe for more fun. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful night. And I'll see you in basically Part 7. It's on the way, folks. So just stay tuned and get ready for it.